Hi, my name is Rebecca Tarlau, and I'm an associate professor at Stanford University. And I'm going to talk about a chapter I wrote for the NORRAG special issue with my colleague and friend, Alessandro Mariano, who's part of the national coordination of the Brazilian Landless Workers Movement, or the MST. Our chapter is called Landless Workers, Constructing Educational Alternatives for Agrarian Reform, Agroecology, and Food Sovereignty. For those of you who don't know, the Landless Workers Movement, or the MST, is one of the largest social movements in the entire world. It's a movement of landless people who have decided to take the issue of poverty into their own hand by occupying large, unproductive land estates throughout Brazil and squatting on that land until the government agrees to buy up that land and redistribute it to landless families. Through this process of land occupation, the Landless Workers Movement, the MST, has been able to get land redistributed to more than 450,000 families, or 2 million people, who now have land in which they can work and create a sustainable living. Our book chapter is about the educational proposal that this social movement has developed. Initially, the Landless Workers Movement didn't know that they wanted to engage in education. They were a farmers' movement. They wanted land so they could farm. But very quickly, they realized that farming was not enough if they wanted to continue to have future generations of people, of children, of youth who stayed in rural areas. This is because teachers who were sent to their communities to teach would often have the preconception that urban life was better than rural life. So very early on in the movement, the Landless Workers Movement believed that they had to not only occupy land, they also had to occupy the public school system. What our book chapter does is it talks about the 40 years of educational proposals that the MSC has developed since 1984, when they were founded, until today. It discusses how in the beginning, the MST was focused on literacy, drawing a lot on Freirean educational methods based on pedagogy of the oppressed, using things like generative themes and research and dialogue in order to help both adults and children in occupied encampments learn how to read. Eventually, the MST began to coordinate with other movements, and by the early 1990s, the MST had its own high schools that were training teachers in this alternative educational pedagogy. In the late 1990s, they got funding from UNESCO and other international organizations to develop a broad educational program called Education of the Countryside, which became institutionalized in the Ministry of Education as both a department and a series of programs. Key to this educational proposal is the notion that for young people to succeed in life, they don't need to go to urban areas to get a job, but rather they can be farmers, intellectuals, mathematicians, and folks that grow corn and fruits and other produce in the countryside. Over the past 10 years, the MSc has focused even more so on the idea of agroecology, or how they can support transitions to more sustainable farming systems, as we now know that agribusiness is one of the biggest contributors to climate crisis. Overall, what the past 40 years has shown is that social movements that have concrete ideas for the type of future world they want to build are also able to construct education systems that support the development and thinking of young people to build that future world. We hope you enjoy the chapter.